Come and read more of my works on the website under Yuan. Keywords of the novel. Teasing the Fire Dr. Consort, the prince keeps chasing without pop-ups. Teasing the Fire Dr. Consort, the prince keeps chasing after the full text download. Teasing the Fire Dr. Consort, the prince keeps chasing the latest chapters to read. Chapter 1. Married into the Prince's Mansion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Married into the Prince's Mansion, Prince Ning's Mansion 2. The bride disembarks from the sedan chair. In front of the grand entrance of Prince Ning's mansion in the center of Kyoto, accompanied by 2 loud cheers, a large red sedan chair landed. The side door of Prince Ning's mansion was open, and the maids in the mansion crowded out, standing on both sides of the bridal sedan chair, waiting for the bride to disembark. However, as 15 minutes passed and there was still no movement inside the sedan chair, the atmosphere at the scene suddenly became somewhat awkward. Many people gathered around the royal mansion to watch the excitement. When they saw the bride unwilling to get off the sedan chair, they immediately came to their senses and whispered and discussed. The auspicious time is approaching, and the bride is unwilling to get off the sedan chair. It seems that Miss Tang is not willing to get married. Who would be willing to exchange this for? Back in the day, Prince Ning was also a talented and outstanding figure. Many girls in Kyoto had made love to him just to catch a glimpse. That's also back then. Now that the stubborn illness is on the verge of death, it's not bad to be able to live. There's no such thing as being carefree back then. It is said that if you break your hands and feet, even if you can survive, you will still be a useless person in the future. No wonder the noble consort hastily gave birth to another young prince. Shoo. The matter of the noble consort cannot be discussed. When the people around heard this, their faces showed a look of fear. Seeing that there was still no movement in the distant sedan chair, they dared not discuss matters related to the royal family. However, when it comes to the Tang family, they showed no hesitation. It is said that Tang, the beloved concubine of the county magistrate, added a chubby boy to him after his illegitimate daughter. The eldest lady had a poor stomach and worked hard for decades before giving birth to Miss Tang. Before the child grew up, the eldest lady was doomed. However, the concubine was lucky, giving birth one after another. Prince Ning's life is not long. Marrying him as the Empress Dowager has a good reputation. When Prince Ning returns to the West, the Empress Dowager will also have to be buried. The Empress Dowager also knows that most people are unwilling to agree to this matter. When she came to the Tang family, she only wanted a concubine, but unfortunately, the aunt didn't want to give up her concubine daughter and sent her over. Why hasn't there been any movement for so long? The bride won't have any trouble, will she? Everyone was startled and turned to the sedan chair. The people in the royal mansion were also afraid of accidents and disregarded etiquette. They quickly stepped forward and lifted the curtain of the sedan chair. I saw the bride sitting in the sedan chair with her eyes tightly closed and her neck crooked, motionless. The matchmaker was surprised and quickly approached to investigate the bride's physical condition. Before she could touch the bride, she saw her mutter and say a dream sentence. Surprisingly, I slept so soundly that the sedan chair fell to the ground without waking up. When the bride gets married, she either sweats nervously or her hands tremble with worry and fear. Now Miss Tang is going to marry Prince Ning, a dying person. Everyone thought she would cry in the sedan chair, but she ended up sleeping directly. The matchmaker was speechless and pushed the new lady, saying, "Hey, wake up. We're at the palace, wake up. Wanfu. Wanfu meet. Where is Wanfu meet?" Tang Xueyao quickly opened her eyes. "When is it, still thinking about eating?" The matchmaker couldn't help but frown, but when her gaze fell on Tang Xueyao's face, that dissatisfaction disappeared. Dr. Tang is low-key and rarely goes out, and his daughter also lives in seclusion. In recent years, there have been rumors about the Tang family from the outside world, all about how Mr. Tang spoils his concubines and destroys his wives, how his concubines are incredibly charming, how their children have inherited good looks, and so on. No one had ever told her that Miss Tang was such a first-class beauty. Black hair and snowy skin, delicate Cheong nose, delicate but not glamorous lips, the most striking are those eyes that are like autumn water. At first glance, they can make people's bones even crispy. Even the matchmaker, who was accustomed to seeing the beauty, was slightly lost for a moment. Seeing Tang Xueao's eyes confused and thinking about her situation, the matchmaker's heart softened for no reason. Her tone of voice couldn't help but slow down a bit. Prince Ning's mansion has arrived, the bride should quickly get off the sedan chair. Sitting in this sedan chair, you are born as the king of Ning and die as the king of Ning's ghost. You won't be able to escape in your lifetime. Instead of causing trouble and being disliked, it's better to marry in safely. Perhaps your noble consort has a kind heart, and when that day comes, I'll give you a good time. The maid outside heard the matchmaker's words and looked at Tang Xueao with a stunned expression, as if frightened. She quickly patted her and said, "On a happy day, what should I say? Is this persuasion? Who is not afraid of hearing this?" The maid immediately pushed the matchmaker away and draped a red veil over Tang Xueao, saying, "The groom is already waiting. The bride should quickly get off the sedan chair and enter the mansion." After speaking, without waiting for Tang Xueao's reaction, the maid directly dragged Tang Xueao out of the wedding sedan. Although the maid's voice was not loud, it was very sharp, and people around her widened their eyes when they heard what she said. "Is the groom waiting?" The groom, Prince Ning, is seriously ill and unable to get up. He has more breath and less intake, so he won't be able to live for a few days. Surprisingly, he can still come out to welcome the bride today. The next moment, with a creaking sound, the heavy main gate of the royal mansion slowly opened. The lively music slowly came, and several servants dressed in red gathered around the nobles as they walked out of the mansion. Everyone stared wide-eyed and tiptoed curiously towards the gate. Even the quiet and silent bride Tang Xueao couldn't help but lift her head and look at the gate of the royal mansion. What caught the eye first were a pair of golden chicken claws. Above the claws, the shiny and fluffy chicken feathers cover the entire body. The bright red coxcomb stood upright with a fierce and majestic aura, complementing the four words, "Prince Ning of the Groom," in the large red flower on his chest. Looking at this lively rooster, everyone fell silent. The scene remained quiet for almost 3 seconds until the rooster raised its neck and let out a loud, "Whoa whoa whoa," which shattered the eerie silence. "Is this a chicken?" "Big rooster." The sign on the rooster reads Prince Ning of the Groom. Is this rooster going to replace Prince Ning as the groom's official? That's right, Prince Ning can't even get up. Can't this big rooster take his place? The grandiose miss of the Tang family is going to marry a chicken and poultry. What a shame. At least she is also the legitimate daughter. If she really pays her respects to this chicken and worships heaven and earth today. After today, Tang Xueao may become the laughingstock of the whole city. Countless sighs and sighs of regret echoed around, and looking at Tang Xueao's gaze, none of them were without sympathy and regret. The maid seemed to have anticipated this scene for a long time. Seeing Tang Xueao looking at the rooster for 2 seconds, she raised her hand as if she wanted to do something, and immediately felt like a formidable enemy. They were deeply afraid that Tang Xueao would be provoked to flee madly by being stabbed, and they held on to her tightly from left to right, not allowing her to move at all. As she dragged her inside, the maids threatened in Tang Xueao's ear, "Prince Ning is seriously ill and unable to get up for the wedding. The Empress Dowager has consulted with the national teacher, but the big rooster can pay respects on behalf of the prince. The rooster represents auspicious symbolism, and after a successful marriage, the prince may recover. It is related to the royal reputation and health of the prince. If there is a mistake, neither you nor I can afford it. Today, whether the queen likes it or not, this dear, you are destined. You and I warned each other, dragging Tang Xueyao inside. At this moment, the big rooster in front seemed to be stimulated by something, suddenly pecking at the person beside him and flapping its wings, flying around wildly. The people present didn't expect such a sudden situation to happen at a critical moment. After being surprised, they quickly rushed forward to catch the big rooster. The rooster was already frightened, and being surrounded by so many people made it scream and peck wildly. In the end, with a single wing, it flew away from the palace. Not good. Stop it quickly. Catch up, don't let it fly away. Why fly so high and so fast? It's over, the groom has flown away. A group of people were rushing around like ants on a hot pot, but at this moment, Tang Xueyao, the bride who had been standing quietly on the side, suddenly walked out. The maid was attracted by the rooster's escape and neglected to catch Tang Xueyao for a moment. Seeing her break free from her constraints while taking advantage of the chaos, as if she was about to escape marriage, she was immediately shocked and screamed, "The princess is going to escape, stop her." The maid's voice was piercing, overwhelming the noisy scene, and Xing drew everyone's attention. The queen wants to escape marriage. I'm getting ready to pay respects and get married, but I have to run away from marriage. What kind of hall to worship? The groom and officials have all flown away. The rooster represents auspicious symbolism. Isn't it that something like this is happening now? Prince Ning is afraid he won't be able to endure this calamity. As the bride was about to leave the palace, the people around shook their heads and sighed, while others gloated and rubbed their hands to watch the excitement of the palace. They waited for a few days to drink Prince Ning's Baisher wine. The next second, Tang Xueyao, who was about to successfully escape, suddenly stopped and raised her hand slightly. The position where she stands is at the junction of tree shadows and sunlight. The sleeves of Shifu were wide, and with her hand slightly raised, a white jade-like wrist was exposed. I don't know if it's just an illusion from everyone, but at the delicate white fingertips, something faint green appeared. Before everyone could see clearly, the sound of "whoa whoa" came. The big cock that had flown away for a long time unexpectedly flew back again, just like a phoenix perched on a wutong, and fell into Tang Xueyao's hands. The fierce rooster just now seems to have transformed into a chicken, gently retracting its wings and even lightly rubbing its head against Tang Xueyao's palm. A gust of wind blew up the red cap slightly, revealing half of Tang Xueyao's exquisitely stunning face. One person, one chicken, the picture is beautiful, even more stunning than the most exquisite painting. Everyone was stunned and didn't come to their senses for a while. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. First meeting with Prince Ning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. First meeting with Prince Ning. The auspicious time has arrived. The Empress Dowager has an order, the queen and the groom should quickly enter the palace to pay their respects. Please. A group of soldiers gathered everyone as the main group, and the captain of the guards walked up to Tang Xueyao and made a gesture of invitation. Tang Xueyao touched the uneasy rooster and walked into the royal mansion with it. As the gate of the royal mansion closed, countless people who watched the excitement sighed. This princess is truly a stunning and delicate lady. It's a strange thing that the flying rooster is willing to return to her hands. This rooster represents Prince Ning, is it? Prince Ning has been saved. The people outside were discussing, while inside the palace, Tang Xueyao brought a rooster to Shitang. Prince Ning was seriously ill and married only for the sake of happiness. Naturally, the Holy One would not participate in such matters. Therefore, in the high hall, only a dignified and noble woman was sitting, who was the birth mother of Prince Ning, Lady Shu. Beside Consort Shu, there stood a little boy in a yellow robe, with a serious face at a young age. Consort Shu, who is over 40 years old, has no signs of aging. She has a beautiful appearance and can carry the national beauty and heavenly fragrance. But at this moment, she remained calm and stared at Tang Xueyao and the big rooster with an unclear expression. Tang Xueyao, you had a chance to escape, why did you go back and forth? The rooster went crazy, and how did you bring it back? Seeing Tang Shuiao standing still without speaking, Lady Shu slammed the table hard and shouted, "Speak up." Tang Shuiao understood that she couldn't pretend to be foolish this time. Under her red veil, she sighed helplessly. Tang Shuiao comes from a family of modern medicine. If she hadn't traveled through time, she should still be watching dramas and eating takeout at home, enjoying the convenience of modern life happily. Unfortunately, upon waking up, I inexplicably arrived in this world. Tang Shuiao in this world, with the same name, surname and age as her, is the same as her company leader. However, there is a family of top-notch relatives. My father is weak, my birth mother passed away early, and my new aunt is full of scheming. The noble consort wanted to find a burial girl for her dying eldest son, and after searching around, she finally recognized the Tang family and promised many benefits. Auntie agreed for the benefit and then sold her original body. After this matter was finalized, he deliberately kept it from his original identity until 2 days before marriage. When he couldn't keep it from him, he finally informed his original identity. Even if the original body cried to the death, it was useless. He was forcibly taken to the flower sedan by his aunt, and in grief and anger, he eventually hanged himself inside the sedan. After her original body died, Tang Shuiao wore it into her body and opened her eyes, only to see the scene of the matchmaker waking her up. Looking around, there were the royal mansion, maids, and big roosters. Tang Shuiao instinctively realized that the situation was delicate and dangerous. She yelled and exposed her secrets as a modern person, which could potentially kill herself. She chose to remain silent and pretend to be foolish, while cooperating with the maid's actions and trying to digest her own memories. Tang Shuiao was certain that everything was done and she was destined to marry the disabled prince. After a brief moment of despair, she was pleasantly surprised to find that her golden finger had also followed. That is the space she brought with her since childhood, filled with spiritual energy, very suitable for planting herbs. Ordinary herbs can be planted for several days before being taken out for use, and their efficacy is hundreds of times higher than that of normal herbs. It is not an exaggeration to say they are immortal herbs. For Tang Shuiao now, having a space for fairy grass to stand by is undoubtedly great news. Perhaps due to her own fairy grass space, Tang Shuiao has been very popular with small animals since childhood, and can easily see through their emotional states at a glance. As soon as the big rooster appeared, Tang Shuiao keenly sensed something was wrong. She was about to step forward to comfort her, but was tightly held down by the maid. Watching the rooster fly away, Tang Shuiao's wedding ceremony today is about to become a laughing stock. She can only seize the opportunity to walk aside and take out a purple clover from the space while others are not paying attention. Purple alfalfa has the wonderful effects of relieving cough, moistening the lungs, and reducing cholesterol, and is also a plant that birds love. The purple alfalfa that Tang Shuiao took out of the space was like 100 concentrated plants. The big rooster couldn't bear the temptation to eat, so it flew back immediately and landed in Tang Shuiao's palm, rubbing and drinking, very affectionate. Whether it's time traveling or the fairy grass space, they are Tang Shuiao's biggest secrets, and it's naturally impossible to be honest. At this moment, Tang Shuiao's mind flashed with the words that the matchmaker and maid had said to her. After thinking for a moment, she slowly said, "Sitting in this bridal sedan chair, you are born to be the king of Ning, and you will die to be the king of Ning's ghost. You will never escape in this lifetime. Instead of causing trouble and being disliked, it's better to marry in peace and avoid causing trouble." As for this rooster, it was originally the substitute for Prince Ning, so naturally it had to return to Prince Ning's mansion. Shuiao dared not take credit for it. Upon hearing this, Lady Shu's eyes narrowed slightly. Long before getting married, she had ordered someone to investigate the internal affairs of the Tang family, and they all said that the young lady of the Tang family had grown a good skin bag, but in fact, she was incredibly stupid. At first sight today, she was much smarter and more agile than she had imagined. "So, are you willing to marry into the Prince Ning's mansion and prepared to live and die with him?" said Lady Shuguei. "Prince Ning and auspicious people have their own destiny, and they will definitely be safe and sound," Tang Shuiao said. If all the previous words were just scenes, this sentence is her sincere answer. After all, with the presence of immortal grass, life and death are human flesh and bones. With her, even if Prince Ning wants to die in the future, it will be difficult. Consort Shu sneered, obviously not believing Tang Shuiao's words at all. She signaled to the person next to her and said, "All right, it's good if you have this intention. After a busy day, my palace is also tired, so there's no need to follow those complicated formalities. Chunlan, take her down to serve Prince Ning." The maid named Chunlan took orders and walked forward, taking Tang Shuiao towards the backyard. As soon as Tang Shuiao left, Consort Shu immediately left with the little prince. When the noble consort was present, she didn't feel much. As soon as she left, a large number of servants left the Prince Ning's mansion. The vast mansion instantly fell silent, accompanied by night, empty and unpopular, inferior to ordinary rural courtyards, very desolate. Chunlan stopped and pointed to the small courtyard in front of her, saying to Tang Shuiao, "This is the residence of the prince." "Please, princess." Tang Shuiao looked up and saw that the small courtyard was pitch black, with no candles lit. The entrance is overgrown with weeds, and the chain is rusty. It's not like a prince's residence, it's not an exaggeration to say it's a ghost house. This. Hey. Tang Shuiao was about to ask a question, but in the next moment, she was fiercely pushed by Chunlan and fell in with both a person and a chicken. Taking advantage of Tang Shuiao's fall, Chunlan quickly closed the door and sneered at Tang Shuiao, saying, "Prince Ning is inside. On the wedding night, the Queen and Prince Ning should enjoy themselves inside tonight." After speaking, Chunlan forcefully fastened the lock in her hand and turned around to leave. Tang Shuiao originally wanted to rush out, but when she heard the maid's words, she stopped in her tracks. Is Prince Ning really inside? At this moment, night had completely fallen, and there was still moonlight outside the courtyard, making it almost impossible to see anything inside. Tang Shuiao was not afraid of the heavens and the earth, and her greatest fear was darkness. Seeing the big rooster still rubbing against her palm and begging for her food, Tang Shuiao whispered, "It's time for you to play a role. Go find a way and find Prince Ning." Tang Shuiao said, directing the rooster to signal inside. The big rooster looked innocently at Tang Shuiao and remained motionless for half a day. It has eaten the fairy grass in Tang Shuiao's space and is much smarter than ordinary chickens. Tang Shuiao knew it understood her words and urged, "After eating my grass, you should do something. Find the person and I'll give you another plant to eat." The big rooster's eyes lit up and he vigorously flapped his wings, flying inside like an arrow departing from the string without looking back. Then, with a loud thud, it collided firmly with the pillar and let out a scream of agony. Tang Shuiao held onto her forehead in agony and said, "I almost forgot that chickens are night-blind animals." Helpless, Tang Shuiao had no choice but to touch the darkness and follow the sound of the rooster to the innermost bedroom. To her surprise, the bedroom window was open, and the moonlight shone through the window lattice, giving her a much clearer view inside than in the small hall. The big rooster was lying in bed, howling incessantly. Tang Shuiao walked forward, intending to pick it up and head elsewhere. In the next moment, her gaze fixed. "I saw a thin man lying on this old and smelly bed. The moonlight fell on his eyebrows and eyes, reflecting a jade-like face. His eyes were tightly closed, his eyelashes were long, his lips were extremely pale, and he was a bit more handsome than the finely crafted charming figures in the painting. Is this Prince Ning? He looks pretty good." Tang Shuiao muttered, bending down carefully to pick up the big rooster. As she bent down, the other half of Prince Ning's face also appeared in her sight. The other half of the face hidden in the darkness actually had a big hole, spreading all the way from the corner of the lips, even covering the end of the eye. "Ah! Tang Xueyao didn't expect that the almost perfect half of her face under the moonlight would be so ugly on the other side that she was startled. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Healing his wounds. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Healing his wounds. The big rooster heard Tang Xueyao's screams and saw that she seemed to be afraid of the man on the bed. He immediately shouted, "Oh, oh," and pretended to help Tang Xueyao hit someone to vent his anger on her behalf. Don't hit him." Tang Xueyao quickly stopped and picked up the big rooster from the bed. A person and a chicken were causing such a commotion, making a loud noise. Ordinary people should have been woken up long ago. The Prince Ning on the bed kept his eyes closed from beginning to end, without any signs of awakening. "Isn't it already cold?" Tang Xueyao put down the rooster and cautiously approached to see the situation of Prince Ning. As soon as Tang Xueyao approached, Prince Ning on the bed suddenly took a deep breath of air, and a voice of extreme pain and oppression came from his throat. Tang Xueyao was startled and had a conditioned reflex of wanting to retreat and avoid it. However, she later discovered that Prince Ning had not woken up and seemed to have fallen into a terrible nightmare. In just a few seconds, Prince Ning's head had already oozed fine and dense cold sweat, and his already pale face had become even paler. Under the exposed skin, muscles constantly twitch and tremble, seeming to be extremely painful and itchy, tormenting people to the point where life is more than death. "Are you okay? Wake up quickly," Tang Xueyao hurriedly said. The nightmarish King Ning couldn't hear her voice at all. In just a moment, the fine and dense sweat had accumulated into droplets, wetting Prince Ning's hair. He was as if he had been pulled out of the water, and his breathing gradually became weak, even intermittent, as if he was about to stop at any moment. "This won't work." Tang Xueyao's face changed slightly. She has treated many patients and is well aware that this situation is very dangerous. One mistake could lead to sudden death. The ulceration of the cheek skin is caused by inflammation and a high fever, which needs to be treated with a piece of land. Tang Xueyao said, taking out the herb from the fairy herb space and quickly pounding it and applying it to the face of Prince Ning. She thought that Prince Ning had only a wound on his face, but as she applied it, Tang Xueyao suddenly realized that the ulceration had spread down the back of his neck. At the same time, an indescribable odor drifted out of the blanket, a rotten odor that made people nauseous. This shouldn't be. At least he is a prince of a mansion. Even if he is about to die, he shouldn't be allowed to collapse all over the bed, right? Tang Xueyao unfaithfully lifted the blanket. A strong odor 100 times stronger than before rushed out, and Ning Wang's skin was not only ulcerated all over, but what was even more terrifying was that there were many foreign objects piled up inside the bedding. The rotten and purulent flesh mixed with those filthy things was disgusting and terrifying. Just looking at it made me feel uncomfortable all over. No wonder Prince Ning showed such a painful expression. The miserable situation hidden in the bed contrasted sharply with the perfect face under the moonlight, making Tang Xueyao stand tall with sweat and hair all over her body. Is this abuse? Has the people of the royal family gone crazy? Even ordinary people should not abuse like this, let alone he is still a prince. Tang Xueyao immediately walked out. The maid Chunlan who just brought her over has already left, and the outer space of the courtyard is empty, with no one left. What's even more despicable is that the courtyard door is locked from the outside, without even giving her a chance to go out and find someone. Tang Xueyao immediately took out a chair from the hall and wildly knocked on the door. The wooden chair collided with the copper door, and the noise spread far and wide. Chunlan, who had been avoiding laziness, was annoyed by the noise and had no choice but to walk out. What's the noise? No noise is allowed in the royal mansion. Tang Xueyao said in a deep voice, how do you take care of patients? Prince Ning's skin is ulcerated all over, and there are foreign objects piled up under his body. If he doesn't clean it up in time, it will only worsen his condition. Chunlan rolled her eyes and said, I see. Then it's up to the queen to take good care of her. Tang Xueyao became angry when she saw that the other party's attitude was so perfunctory. Why didn't I take good care of him before asking you, and let him ignore him like this? Your abusive behavior is illegal in any era, you know. Chunlan sneered and said, the queen has spoken too seriously. It is precisely because the maidservants are not taking good care of the prince that the prince needs to marry a queen. You are a careful person, so you can definitely do better than the maidservants. Without waiting for Tang Xueyao to get angry, Chunlan said directly, to be honest, the prince's affairs are already being prepared. The high-quality Liuzhou coffin was sent to the prince's mansion with the queen yesterday. Instead of the queen standing up to avenge the prince, it's better to think about how many days she still has to live. After speaking, Chunlan didn't care about Tang Xueyao's reaction and turned around, twisting her waist and walking away. Tang Xueyao was so angry that she couldn't believe that this situation was happening in the Wang mansion. No wonder after selecting Tang Yunxian, the illegitimate sister of Tang Xueyao, her aunt cried so hard that she insisted on having Tang Ming choose someone else. Not only because the prince is seriously ill, but also because all the people in this mansion do not treat Prince Ning as a person at all, and are all hoping for his death. Unfortunately, they met Tang Xueyao. The more these people hope that Prince Ning will die, the more Tang Xueyao wants to save them. She returned to the room and completely lifted the stinky bedding on Prince Ning's body, exposing the wound to the air. Then, she untied Prince Ning's clothes and used the herbs in the fairy grass space to clean them one by one. During this period, Prince Ning developed a high fever due to inflammation of the wound, and fell into deeper nightmares. In the most severe cases, he even let out small sobs. Father, mother. Let me die. Give me a good time. Tang Xueyao was worried that his tears would wash away the newly applied ointment, so she gently wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes. Unexpectedly, just as he touched him, Prince Ning's cheek lightly pressed against her palm, snuggling up to her like a small animal, absorbing the warmth of her palm. Tang Xueyao looked at Prince Ning with some surprise, but she didn't expect him to look very cold on the outside, so sticky when he was sick. Prince Ning had many large and small wounds on his body, and Tang Xueyao had one hand pressed against him while the other was unable to carry out her work. She could only pull her hand back. As a result, Tang Xueyao's hand had just been retracted for just a moment, and Prince Ning once again fell into a nightmare. Not only is the fever high again, but it's even more severe than the last time. Helpless, Tang Xueyao had no choice but to put her hand back. As soon as he met Tang Xueyao, the painful expression on Prince Ning's face diminished significantly, as if he was extremely dependent on Tang Xueyao. Seeing that Prince Ning couldn't do without people like a child, and thinking that he was completely paralyzed and left to fend for himself, it was truly pitiful. Tang Xueyao sighed and decided to sit next to Prince Ning, carefully operating it with only one hand. If the situation of Prince Ning were to be brought to modern times, several doctors would have to take turns to clean up, apply medicine, and bandage. The conditions in the Wang mansion were harsh, with only Tang Xueyao as the doctor, and even one hand was pillowed by Prince Ning. Tang Xueyao stayed up late and worked hard all night until the sky revealed a fish belly white color and the big roosters outside the courtyard began to crow. It was only then that she reluctantly completed the preliminary work. Most of the wounds were cleaned and drugged, but Tang Xueyao searched the entire room but couldn't find any sheets or clothes to change. Not only that, but even rice and noodles are not available. The entire courtyard was empty, dirty and dilapidated, like an abandoned ghost house. Even the servants of the prince's mansion did not live, but the prince of Prince Ning's mansion lived there. Seeing that Prince Ning's situation was temporarily under control, Tang Xueyao decided to take out her hand and walk out. The sound of the chair knocking on the door reappeared, awakening Chunlan from her beautiful dream. She impatiently walked over and said, "Why did you knock again? Are you finished or not?" Tang Xueyao said, "It's time for me and the prince to have dinner." "Someone will bring the meal over later." "Wait," said Chunlan. What kind of meal will be sent and how long will it take to wait? Tang Shuiao said. Rice soup, vegetable leaves, don't worry, you won't starve to death, said Chunlan. Rice soup, vegetable leaves, is this human food? Not to mention people like Prince Ning who are seriously ill and need to supplement their nutrition, it's just a normal person like Tang Shuiao. Eating these things is not enough. Last night's situation had already made Tang Shuiao aware of her situation in the royal mansion. At that time, Prince Ning was in a critical situation, and Tang Shuiao was in a hurry to save people, too lazy to argue with Chunlan. But today is different. Tang Shuiao said in a deep voice, I'll say it again, open the door and let us out, otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Teach people a lesson. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Teach people a lesson, you're welcome. How could you be so polite? Chunlan rolled her eyes and didn't pay any attention to Tang Shuiao's threat. Your Majesty said that the princess has just arrived and needs to stay by the prince's side to adapt well. You should stay inside and stay well. Upon hearing this, Tang Shuiao didn't say much and walked away with a chair. Chunlan thought she had given up struggling and sneered, indeed, she is the daughter of a small family, but she can't stand the stage. She twisted her waist and turned to leave. Just as she had walked less than 100 meters away, she suddenly heard the sound of a chair knocking on the door. The sound of clang 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 kept coming. Chunlan turned around and found that Tang Shuiao was not at the front door of the courtyard. She must have changed direction and knocked on the back door. What did she knock on the door there for? Did she expect the servant guarding the back door to answer her? Chunlan sneered as she was about to ignore and continue walking. Suddenly, she thought of something and stopped, saying, It's broken. The back door of this courtyard leads directly to the street. Apart from the servant guarding the back door, there are people passing by every day. She wouldn't want to damage the reputation of the royal family, would she? Chunlan quickly changed direction and hurried to the back door. The interior of the yard is in a state of disrepair, and the back door is piled up with useless debris. When Chunlan arrived, Tang Shuiao was sitting in the innermost pile of grass mats, holding up her chair and tapping it repeatedly. The sound of the chair knocking on the door was loud, and she sat there in a red dress, very eye-catching, making it difficult to ignore. Fortunately, the people have not yet gathered around, and everything is still possible. Tang Shuiao. What are you doing here? You haven't come out yet. Seeing no one around, Chunlan immediately scolded Tang Shuiao rudely. Tang Shuiao knocked on the door as she spoke loudly, Since I got married to the royal family, I haven't drunk a drop of water or eaten a grain of rice. The people of the royal family have locked me in a dilapidated courtyard, not to mention changing clothes or clean bedding, without even stuttering. I am extremely hungry, so I have no choice but to resort to this tactic. I have been begging for food from the people on the street, and at least I won't starve to death on the spot as soon as I marry into the royal family. Chunlan felt miserable as she shouted, and angrily said, What's there to eat or drink? Didn't she promise to give you rice soup and vegetable leaves? They'll be delivered in a little while. Tang Shuiao turned a deaf ear and continued to knock and beat. Tang Shuiao, I advise you to stop immediately and wait inside obediently. If this continues, in case it affects the reputation of the Wang mansion outside, you won't even have to eat rice soup and vegetable leaves. Chunlan threatened, Did you hear me? Tang Shuiao, who had been tapping, finally stopped her work and turned to Chunlan, saying, I heard you. Chunlan seemed to be scared when she saw Tang Shuiao, so she nodded in satisfaction. She had just thought that the rice soup and vegetable leaves would need to be reduced for a while, giving Tang Shuiao a lesson. In the next moment, Tang Shuiao stood up and pushed away the straw mat standing behind her. Outside the straw mat, there stood a large group of people, all staring at Chunlan. Seeing Chunlan staring at them in shock with wide eyes, a person suddenly exclaimed, I recognize this maid. Yesterday, when the queen got off the bridal sedan chair, she came out to pick her up. She's from the palace, right? Oh my goodness, I didn't expect what the queen said to be true. The royal mansion looks shiny on the surface, but in reality, it's so terrifying. The newly married bride, who doesn't have any new bedding or clothes to change, is so frugal in her food that she gives rice soup and vegetable leaves directly. We ordinary people wouldn't be able to survive on this. Didn't you just listen to that maid? She's not even giving me rice soup and vegetable leaves now. This is too malicious, it really drives people to the brink of despair. Prince Ning has been disabled for so long, and people can't be happy anymore. It's understandable that these servants can't be cared for. But isn't the Empress Dowager still in the palace yesterday? Does she also care? Who knows, it's hard to say. Chunlan saw that this group of people not only watched the entire conversation between her and Tang Xueao, but also spread the matter to the Empress Dowager. Her face turned white and she was panicked. She simply couldn't understand how things could have progressed to this point. In the morning, when Tang Xueao was searching for food in the yard holding a big rooster, she noticed that the back door of the yard was connected to the main road, with people coming and going, making it very lively. At that time, she had a plan in her heart, just waiting to see Chunlan's reaction. If Chunlan opens the door, gives her and Prince Ning good rice and vegetables, and returns what should belong to them to her, Tang Xueao doesn't need to make things difficult for a maid. But if Chunlan doesn't know what to do, then don't blame her for being impolite. So Tang Xueao didn't argue with Chunlan just now, she just carried a chair and went to the back door to knock. She was dressed in a red wedding dress and caused such a big commotion, which soon attracted many people's onlookers. Tang Xueao deliberately made these people hide behind the grass mat, and then waited for Chunlan to come and share their conversation with everyone. Chunlan did indeed live up to her high expectations. As soon as she saw no one around, her fierce expression came out, further confirming the fact that the servants of the royal family were abusing the queen. Misunderstanding, all of this is a misunderstanding. At this moment, a middle-aged man rushed over from the palace with a group of servants. The person who came was none other than the steward of the royal mansion and the steward Zhou who had just received the news. Zhou, the butler, was a trusted confidant of the Empress Dowager and held a high position in the royal palace. His servants had to listen to him. But the people outside the door are not servants of the royal family, they don't give face to the Zhou steward at all. What we heard with our own ears, where did we misunderstand? This group of servants is very annoying. They are respectful and obedient in front of each other, and have a different face behind them. I didn't expect the people in the Prince Ning's mansion to be like this. Seeing everyone completely ignoring him, the butler Zhou had no choice but to look at Tang Xueao and said, "Princess, we have something to discuss." Tang Xueao was sitting leisurely on the side, observing how the people accused the servants of the royal family. At this moment, when she heard the words of housekeeper Zhou, she slightly turned her eyes and gave Chunlan a light or heavy glance. Then, without saying a word, she turned her head and continued to watch. Upon seeing this, Steward Zhou immediately understood Tang Xueao's meaning. She was dissatisfied with Chunlan's performance and wanted to use this incident to teach her a lesson. While killing chickens and warning monkeys, she also wanted to establish credibility in the royal palace. At this moment, Tang Xueao has successfully incited public opinion, and she has taken the initiative. If Butler Zhou doesn't make a statement today, this matter won't end well. If the opinions of the people spread to the palace, the entire royal palace would be punished. Even if the steward Zhou is powerful, he is just a servant. How can he bear such a big matter? Thinking of this, Butler Zhou gritted his teeth, raised his hand on the spot, and fiercely slapped Chunlan's face. With just a snap, Chunlan's face immediately turned red for the most part. Chunlan let out a scream and covered her face in disbelief as she looked towards housekeeper Zhou. Locking Tang Xueao and the prince together and not changing their laundry and bedding were all orders from the housekeeper Zhou. How could the housekeeper Zhou hit her in front of everyone now? Without waiting for Chunlan to question, the butler Zhou pointed at Chunlan's nose and angrily shouted, "Bold and lowly servant, how dare you deceive and mistreat the queen? The face of the royal family has been disgraced." Chunlan understood immediately upon hearing housekeeper Zhou's words. He was afraid that the situation would escalate, so he shifted all the blame onto himself first. Chunlan was not willing to be blamed for this, so she immediately covered her face and said, "Steward Zhou, don't forget. Do you dare to talk back?" Zhou, the butler, was afraid that Chunlan might say something wrong. He raised his hand again and gave Chunlan another slap. With 2 slaps, Chunlan's face swelled up like a pig's head. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Kneeling and Admitting Mistakes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Kneeling and Admitting Mistakes. Chunlan has always valued appearance the most, but now in front of so many people, she has been beaten up like this by housekeeper Zhou. She covered her face and cried out in frustration. Unfortunately, no one on site sympathized with her, and the onlookers even applauded and cheered. These 2 slaps slapped happily. It turns out that not all servants of the royal family are bad, only this malicious maid treats the queen harshly. The butler Zhou breathed a sigh of relief as he saw the anger of the onlookers subside. He then looked at Tang Xueyao and said, "Princess, I have already punished this lowly maid for you. I wonder if the princess is still satisfied." Tang Xueyao, who had been sitting and watching the excitement, only then did Shi Shiren get up. The butler Zhou saw Tang Xueyao get up and walk out, thinking that Tang Xueyao was angry, and this matter came to an end. However, in the next moment, Tang Xueyao said, "Steward Zhou, do you know what Chunlan did wrong? Chunlan doesn't understand the rules. Not only did she not prepare all the daily necessities for the queen, but she also dared to lock the queen in the yard and refuse to feed her. It's like eating a bear's heart and a leopard's gallbladder." Zhou butler hurriedly said. "You are a butler, a servant in charge of the entire government. Since you acknowledge that Chunlan has made a mistake, then you acknowledge that you have committed the crime of dereliction of duty," Tang Xueyao said. Zhou, the butler, was taken aback and looked up at Tang Xueyao in astonishment. He never expected that after he had finished teaching Chunlan a lesson, Tang Xueyao was still not satisfied and wanted to hold him accountable together. He is a person of the Empress Dowager, managing a vast royal mansion with over 10,000 people under one person. If the prince wants to take a sip of water, he has to look at his face. Tang Xueyao, a newly married woman, why dare to hold him accountable? Tang Xueyao looked at the shocked expression on the face of butler Zhou and sneered in her heart. She caused such a big battle, of course, not just to deal with Chunlan, a little maid. Entering the palace, she became the wife of Prince Ning, and from now on, the palace will be her home. The Empress Dowager is the mother of Prince Ning, with a noble status. When she is overwhelmed, Tang Xueyao has nothing to say. This Zhou butler, no matter how high his status is in the mansion, is ultimately just a servant of the royal mansion. She and Prince Ning, the masters of the 2 royal mansions, have to look at the faces of the servants when drinking water and eating rice. Is this decent? So from the beginning, Tang Xueyao's goal was not Chunlan, but Zhou butler. If you do something wrong, you should acknowledge the punishment. Since Steward Zhou punished Chunlan, it means you acknowledge this rule. Tang Xueyao said, "If it doesn't happen to you, then you can't bear to punish yourself." Tang Xueyao's words fell, and everyone looked at the housekeeper Zhou with a somewhat unusual expression. Especially Chunlan, her face was swollen from being beaten by butler Zhou. At this moment, she not only hates Tang Xueyao, but also hates butler Zhou, who personally took action against her. Steward Zhou never expected that Tang Xueyao would be so ruthless. On my first day at the Wang mansion, not only did I take the maid Chunlan Liwei, but I also wanted to have him undergo surgery. Realizing that everyone was watching his every move, in front of so many people, even if the housekeeper was unwilling in his heart, he could only accept it. Zhou, the butler, gritted his teeth and knelt down in front of Tang Xueyao in front of everyone. He slapped his own face while admitting his mistake and saying, "As a butler, I did not manage the palace well and caused the queen to suffer. I beg the queen to forgive me for my dereliction of duty." Tang Xueyao stood motionless and firmly received the worship of the housekeeper Zhou, saying, "According to the rules of the royal family, how should the housekeeper be punished for dereliction of duty?" "Punishment. Half a year's salary," said the butler Zhou, covering his swollen face and feeling pain like cutting flesh in his heart. "This is all white silver." "So great, it seems that there are still rules in the royal mansion," Tang Xueyao nodded with satisfaction. When housekeeper Zhou saw that she finally relented, he quickly took the opportunity to say, "The servant girl Chunlan has been punished, and the villain has also accepted the blame. At this time, the millet porridge in the kitchen has been cooked. Can the princess go in and enjoy it?" Tang Xueyao turned around and gave a blessing to the onlookers, saying, "It is said that the people of Kyoto have good hearts. Today, thank you all for supporting Xueyao. Tang Xueyao is the queen, and the grand queen is so polite to the people on the street, which surprised everyone. Hey, it's not in the way. The queen is polite." Back then, King Ning went to the front line to fight and made remarkable military achievements, protecting the people behind him. Today, the evil servant bullied the lord, and the queen is in trouble. How can we sit idly by? It is our honor to be able to help the queen. Tang Xueyao gave everyone a sweet smile and turned around amidst their praise, saying to manager Zhou, "Let's go." Zhou, the butler, bent over and followed behind Tang Xueyao. As he watched Tang Xueyao leave the sight of the people and walk towards the mansion, a hint of malice flashed in his eyes. He underestimated Tang Xueyao, thinking she was a little girl from a small family who had never seen the world before. He locked her up in the yard, kneading and flattening her, calling the heavens and the earth inauspicious. Unexpectedly, Tang Xueyao took the wrong side of the sword and used the people from the back door to pressure him. But at the same time, Tang Xueyao also underestimated him. If she thought his just kneeling was surrender, then she was completely wrong. If the servants of the entire royal household can be obedient, Zhou Butler naturally has some skills. In a moment, he will let Tang Xueyao take a good look at his methods of governing the royal palace. Surrounded by a group of servants, Tang Xueyao returned to the front hall. As soon as she sat down, Butler Zhou brought up a bowl of stinky swill and said, "Princess, this is breakfast for you and Prince Ning." Tang Xueyao looked at the rotten and moldy food in the bowl and slowly said, "Butler Zhou, what do you mean by this?" Zhou, the steward, sneered and said, "The princess wouldn't think that if you shout a few words to the people, Zhou will have to obediently listen to you, right? I might as well tell you that the entire royal mansion is my people. If the Empress Dowager is not here, I will be the largest ruler of the mansion. You must be sensible. If you drink this swill now, kneel down with me and admit your mistake, otherwise the prince's today will be your tomorrow." Tang Xueyao looked at Zhou Guanjia and said, "So just now, in front of the people, I cried bitterly and admitted my mistake. Those words that promised to prepare meals for me and Prince Ning were all fake." Of course. Zhou, the butler, was simply amused by Tang Xueyao's innocence. "That was just a perfunctory remark, wouldn't you take it seriously? By the way, I regret to inform you that the servants are now using tools to go to the back door. Not only will the back of the prince's yard be completely blocked, but all the courtyards of the prince's mansion have been built with new walls. You can't use the same method again." "I didn't originally plan to use it twice," Tang Xueyao shook her head and chuckled lightly. Zhou, the butler, saw Tang Xueyao's relaxed expression without any panic. He vaguely felt something was wrong and couldn't help but say, "What are you talking about?" "I said, housekeeper Zhou, are you tired from carrying the swill? Do you want to put your things down and rest?" Tang Xueyao said to housekeeper Zhou. Zhou, the butler, was taken aback and suddenly realized that he had been carrying the foul-smelling swill for a while without moving. This is obviously abnormal. According to his plan, he was going to bring this slop to Tang Xueyao and disgust her. Why is it still in his own hands until now? Zhou, the butler, wanted to put down the slops, but his body seemed completely unconscious and not at all obedient. No matter what housekeeper Zhou thought in his heart, his body remained motionless, like a stone carving, standing stiff and numb in place. Looking at Tang Xueyao smiling at her again, the butler Zhou's face changed drastically and he said, "Did you do it? What did you do to me? Why can't my body move?" Tang Xueyao whispered, "In this vast royal mansion, everyone has to obey you. Steward Zhou has such great authority. I don't know if everyone will still respect you and continue to obey you when you are lying in bed with no limbs left to move." The steward Zhou's heart was filled with great fear. No one knows better than him what kind of fate a person will have after being abandoned. The former Prince Ning, a young man dressed in fresh clothes and angry horses, was so imposing that in just 3 years, he became a useless person who could even bully maids and servants. All the princes have fallen to this point, let alone he is just a steward of the royal mansion. Manager Zhou's facial muscles were constantly shaking, and tears kept pouring out of his eyes. "I used to kneel down at the back door and admit my mistake as a fake cry, but now I am truly in tears." He pleaded repeatedly, "Princess, I was wrong. I beg her to forgive me. I dare not dare anymore. I beg your highness to have a large amount. Please spare me this time, please." End of this chapter. Chapter 6. I Am Your Princess. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. I Am Your Princess. Tang Xueyao quietly admired the fear and regret of housekeeper Zhou, until it was almost time before she said, "I was just joking." Why did housekeeper Zhou take it seriously? Why don't you try moving your arms again now? Steward Zhou was taken aback, lowered his head, and unexpectedly found that his arm had regained consciousness. Next is the calf, and then the fingers and toes can all move and bounce. The feeling just now was as stiff as a stone, like an illusion. After his body regained consciousness, the butler Zhou could no longer stand and collapsed directly onto the ground. Even if the slop spilled on him, he didn't care anymore. Although it was only a short moment, his stiff and immobile fear had already shattered his will. He looked at Tang Xueyao with fear and said, "The princess. Good means. Where, I hope to receive more guidance from butler Zhou in the future," Tang Xueyao said. She is a newly appointed burial object of the queen, who not only wants to deal with Chunlan, but also wants to use the Zhou butler as a means of imposing power. Even if caught off guard and forced housekeeper Zhou to bow down, he would definitely be retaliated against afterwards. Tang Xueyao had long anticipated that Chamberlain Zhou would use inferior methods to deal with her, so on her way back, she took out a herb from the space and applied it to Chamberlain Zhou while he was not paying attention. Medical skills can save people, but naturally they can also kill. Mandala flower is toxic throughout the body and can be used for anesthesia or hallucination. The medicinal herbs in Tang Xueyao's space are countless times more effective than ordinary plants. If she were ruthless enough, if she sprinkled a whole plant of mandala powder on housekeeper Zhou, he would probably die on the spot. It's just that Tang Xueyao doesn't want to dirty her hands, so she only punished Zhou butler with a slight warning. But if he's still stubborn, it won't be so easy next time. Zhou, the butler, was obviously scared out of his wits by Tang Xueyao. When he found that he could move his hands and feet, he was overjoyed and dared not have any bad thoughts anymore. "Princess Xie, please spare your life. I'll go prepare something for the princess and deliver it in a little while," said the housekeeper Zhou, who quickly crawled open the door and retreated out. After becoming a useless person, Ning Han struggled for 3 years and finally reached the time when the oil ran out and the lamp ran dry. Before his death, he vaguely saw a goddess sent by heaven come to pick him up and leave. The goddess cleansed his body of impurities and comforted him to sleep. Her palms were warm and her voice was sweet, gradually dispelling the pain in Ning Han's heart. It turned out that this was the feeling of death, much happier than he had imagined. Ning Han's lips curved slightly, without any fear in his heart, and he calmly went to die. Unexpectedly, with the first ray of morning light shining through the window lattice and landing on his face, Ning Han opened his eyes again. It was still the dilapidated cottage, with only him lying alone in bed in the vast room. So everything from last night was just an illusory dream. The sound of the iron lock being unlocked came from outside, and a few people walked in from outside. Ning Han heard the voices of housekeeper Zhou and Chunlan, and understood that these people had come to visit him again. He gave a self-deprecating smile, and despair appeared in his eyes. No goddess would come to save him. He has become a dirty and useless person, destined to seek life but not death. With a creaking sound, the door was pushed open, and a person walked in from outside and came to Ning Han's side. Ning Han closed his eyes as if in despair, prepared to be mocked, insulted, and subjected to torture. Unexpectedly, the next moment, the person gently wiped away pus and blood scabs with a soft wet cloth. Starting from his face and continuing down, whenever Ning Han thought that the other person's finger would poke into his wound and intentionally torture him, that person's hand always avoided the key points. Not only did it not cause him any pain, but it was also comfortable, cool, and refreshing as never before. Ning Han's heart was full of thoughts and couldn't understand it. What are Chunlan and the others doing? Shouldn't he be humiliated and hurt severely? Why not only did he not harm him, but also helped him clean his wound? Ning Han's injuries spread throughout his body, and the other person's fingers also went down all the way, from the face to the neck, from the neck to the chest, and even further down. Ning Han couldn't bear it anymore. He opened his eyes and stared at the person by the bed, wanting to question what they wanted to do. To his surprise, what caught his eye was not Chunlan's face, but a strange one. "You're finally willing to wake up." Tang Shuiao couldn't help but smile when she saw Ning Han finally willing to open her eyes and look at herself. After being intimidated by her, the housekeeper Zhou dared not become a demon anymore, and Tang Shuiao did not delay any longer. He immediately returned to Ning Han's small courtyard. She is a doctor who knows the patient's condition like the palm of her hand. When she saw Ning Han, Tang Shuiao realized that he had already woken up. Seeing Ning Han pretending to sleep with his eyes closed, Tang Shuiao began to tease him and helped him clean his wound from top to bottom. Sure enough, Ning Han couldn't help it anymore and opened his eyes, no longer pretending to sleep. His facial contour is very three-dimensional. When he sleeps with his eyes closed, his face is already very cold. At this moment, when he opens his eyes, his black and white eyes are as bright as stars, which is even more heart-shaking. It is said that thousands of young girls were obsessed with him back then. Ning Han would go out and harvest several carts of flowers and fruits every time he returned home. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is the dream girl of all eligible girls in Daning. At first glance, it still lives up to its reputation. The newlywed husband was even more beautiful than she had imagined. Tang Shuiao was in a good mood and saw Ning Han looking at her face in surprise. Without waiting for him to ask, Tang Shuiao took the initiative to say, "Hello, my name is Tang Shuiao, and I am your wife." "My wife?" Ning Han was stunned and couldn't believe that when she woke up, she had an extra wife. "Yes, I just walked through the door and entered the mansion yesterday," Tang Shuiao said. "I was lying down all day yesterday. It's impossible to get married." Ning Han denied in a hoarse voice. "You can't get up, so the royal family replaced you with a rooster. The rooster has a sign hanging on its body with your name written on it, and it has already worshipped heaven and earth with me," Tang Shuiao said. "The Wang mansion cannot do such a child's play. As a dying person, I don't need any wife," Ning Han frowned. "Don't you believe me? I'm really your queen. Look, I'm still wearing the bride's wedding dress," Tang Xueyao said, getting up and spinning in front of Prince Ning. Tang Xueyao was already born extremely white, and wearing her red wedding dress further enhanced her radiance and allure, shining like a rose. Ning Han's gaze was unconsciously drawn to her, and eventually stayed on Tang Xueyao's face. I don't know if it's his illusion, but Tang Xueyao's face gradually overlaps with the goddess he dreamed of last night just as Ning Han was mesmerized by the sound of knocking on the door outside the house. Chunlan's voice sounded outside. Princess, the clothes you need to change and the clean bedding have arrived. Put it in, Tang Xueyao said. Chunlan held clean clothes and bedding in one hand, pushed open the door with the other, and walked in with a bent waist, lowered eyebrows, and a respectful expression, placing her things on the nearby table. Then he bent over again, stepped back step by step, and carefully left. Before leaving, she kindly closed the door. Just after Chunlan left, a moment later, Butler Zhou's voice sounded outside the door. Princess, the fresh congee you want is cooked, some is hot, and the small one will be put aside to dry. Tang Xueyao replied. Butler Zhou opened the door and respectfully put the freshly cooked congee with fragrance aside. His words and actions were more respectful than those of Chuntao, and he didn't dare to lift his head or even glance at Tang Xueyao. Ning Han looked at these details one by one, and the doubts and confusion in his eyes gradually dissipated, transforming into coldness. Since he became a useless person, the position of the Zhou butler in the royal palace was only second to that of the noble consort, Chunlan, who was also a narrow-minded and arrogant person. For many years, the two of them have been accustomed to bullying in the royal palace, and except for Lady Shu, the rest of them have never been seen in the eyes. Now these two people, with such a posture in front of Tang Xueyao, seemed to regard her as the master. He would rather be a useless person. How could he marry such a woman? He is afraid that getting married is fake. The truth is to approach him purposefully. The wound on your body is not healed yet. These clothes and blankets are too dirty. I will help you change them into clean ones. This way, not only will it be comfortable to lie down, but it will also help you recover faster. Tang Xueyao said, bending down to untie Ning Han's clothes. Don't touch me. Ning Han resisted. Tang Xueyao looked up in surprise and said, What's wrong? Does the wound hurt? This formula was developed by Tang Xueyao before. It is a mixture of several herbs, which not only has an analgesic effect, but also has a refreshing and cool mint effect. The patients who have used it before have received unanimous praise, and theoretically it feels very comfortable to apply. The effect should be quite good. Get out. Ning Han said coldly. I move very quickly, don't worry, trust me, Tang Xueyao said, opening Ning Han's shirt. Don't touch me, I'll let you out, get lost. Ning Han growled hoarsely. His eyebrows furrowed tightly, his body muscles trembled a few times, trying to avoid Tang Xueyao's hand. However, his limbs lost consciousness and he struggled for a moment, still lying in place motionless. Tang Xueyao looked at him inexplicably and said, Strange, I was just fine. Why did I suddenly change my attitude? She thought for a moment, but in the end, there was only one reason left in her mind. You're not being shy, are you? Don't worry, when I helped you treat your wound last night, I saw everything I should have seen and everything I shouldn't have seen. It's already too late for you to be shy at this time. Speaking, Tang Xueyao successfully took off his shirt and began to untie his belt. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Changing Dresses and Feeding Congee. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Changing Dresses and Feeding Congee. Ning Han looked at Tang Xueyao getting started, but he was powerless and angry. Didn't you hear me tell you to get out of here? A girl, you don't have the shame to pick on a man's clothes like this. What's so shameful about this? Tang Xueyao didn't agree. We're already married. Is there any problem with me helping my husband undress? It's natural. Even if you have really married into the royal family, we only have the names of husband and wife, not the actual status of husband and wife, Ning Han said. Everyone knows that I have become a useless person. If you leave the royal family now, you can still find a good family to marry out, so as not to delay your life in the royal family. Oh, I see. So you're worried about me, Tang Xueyao gave Ning Han a cunning smile. If you care about someone, just say it directly. When you talk in a roundabout way, I almost thought you were scolding me. I'm not caring about you. Ning Han immediately denied. So why are you telling me these things? Even if I have planned my future remarriage, do you still need to help me prepare my dowry? Tang Xueyao said, quickly stripping off Ning Han's clothes while he wasn't paying attention. Ning Han has been bedridden for 3 years, and his limbs and muscles have all shrunk and decayed. He was wearing clothes before, but as soon as he took them off, his excessively emaciated figure was fully exposed. Paired with his handsome half-face, it was both eerie and deformed. At the moment when his clothes were taken off, Ning Han remained completely silent. His body trembled slightly, and he tilted his head to one side, with a look of forbearance and humiliation between his eyebrows and eyes. Tang Xueyao has seen many disabled patients and understands Ning Han's feelings at this moment. For disabled patients, exposing their damaged bodies to the gaze of others is extremely shameful, and in severe cases, it can even leave a lifelong shadow. But Tang Xueyao is not anyone else. She is a doctor who treats Ning Han. While helping Ning Han dress, Tang Xueyao said, fortunately, it was only injured after reaching adulthood. Although the muscles have shrunk, fortunately, the body's bones have fully developed and the foundation is still there. In the future, with proper treatment and more massage to promote blood circulation, you can quickly recover. From the skeleton, it can be seen that you are tall and have wide shoulders. Her voice is gentle and sweet, brushing through people's hearts like a spring breeze. No one has ever told Ning Han these things, and he looked at Tang Xueyao with some surprise. Tang Xueyao bent over and fastened the last button for him, then looked into Ning Han's eyes and said, "Don't worry, I will definitely cure you and make you stand up again." Ning Han was stunned and stared at Tang Xueyao for a long time. Ning Han couldn't move all over, whether he was happy or not. Tang Xueyao could easily take off his clothes and change them into clean blankets and clothes. But eating is not that simple anymore. Rather than open his mouth and swallow, this bowl of congee could not be delivered into his stomach. Seeing the hot congee getting warmer and cooler, Tang Xueyao had to come up with the final trump card. Do you want to drink it? Don't drink. If you don't drink, I'll feed you. Tang Xueyao threatened, mouth to mouth. Ning Han's face turned red with coldness and said, You unmarried woman, how could you be like this? What hasn't left the cabinet? I've already married someone and I'm a woman. Tang Xueyao confidently said, Drink or not, I'll start. She said, holding congee closer and closer to Ning Han. Not only did Ning Han's face turn red this time, but his ears and neck also turned red. At the moment when Tang Xueyao was about to touch him, he finally compromised and said, I'll drink. Tang Xueyao pinched his cheek with satisfaction. With Ning Han's eyes about to burst into flames, she scooped up congee with a spoon and held it to his mouth. When Ning Han opened his mouth and swallowed congee, Tang Xueyao praised. That's good. After finishing, Tang Xueyao simply tidied up the whole room and then made a small bed by Ning Han's bed. Although Ning Han is still quite energetic now, the situation is still very dangerous, and people cannot be separated from him. Tang Xueyao must sleep on the side at night and observe him at any time. The newly made bed is very small, and Tang Xueyao is not used to sleeping. However, she didn't sleep all night last night, and now she is extremely tired and can't nitpick so much. After yawning, Tang Xueyao quickly fell asleep. Ning Han on the side was the opposite of her. After falling asleep for several days, Ning Han finally regained consciousness. At this moment, she had no drowsiness at all. He lay in bed, quietly watching Tang Xueyao, wanting to see her next move. At this moment, Tang Xueyao suddenly moved. Ning Han's heart tightened. Is she going to take action? Ning Han stared closely at Tang Xueyao, only to see her limbs spread out and she slept in a big character shape. The newly made small bed didn't have such a large space. Tang Xueyao had just reached out and almost rolled under the bed. Tang Xueyao suddenly woke up from her sleep and quickly withdrew her hands and feet. Ning Hanyuan thought she almost fell once and should have learned a lesson, but only half an hour had passed when Tang Xueyao's hands and feet came out disobediently. The woman's hands are much smaller than his, white and tender, with slender fingers that look as beautiful as jade carvings under the moonlight. As she watched her hand fall to the ground again, Ning Han couldn't help but want to make a sound to remind her. In the next moment, Tang Xueyao's hands and feet shrank again, and she pitifully shrunk into a small ball, looking both pitiful and funny. This must be a woman who has been used to sleeping on a big bed at home and has never experienced hardship. Ning Han chuckled. When he realized what he was saying, his smile stiffened. A woman who is used to sleeping on a big bed and has never experienced hardship, inexplicably appears by his side. Change his dressing, feed him, accompany him to endure hardships here, and even say that she is his wife. He is a useless person. How can he win the favor of women like Tang Xueyao? The more I think about it, the colder the expression on Ning Han's face. The next day, Tang Xueyao was awakened again by the sound of a rooster crowing. Housekeeper Zhou delivered the clothes and meals on time. The food was fine, not much different from yesterday, but there were issues with the clothes being changed. Either it's old clothes that have been yellowing for a long time, either it's a linen garment made of coarse cloth. Ning Han's whole body is covered in injuries, and he must wear soft cotton clothes to wake up. These two sets of clothes, one dirty and full of bacteria, and the other so thick and intact, could potentially be worn, let alone Ning Han, a weak patient. Seeing Tang Xueyao's face darkening slightly, it was obvious that he was very dissatisfied. Steward Zhou's heart sank. Without waiting for Tang Xueyao's question, he quickly knelt down and said, I was not well prepared. I beg the Queen for forgiveness. Since you know you're not well prepared, why did you send this thing to me? Tang Xueyao asked in response. If I were to return to the princess. I really can't find any other clothes at the moment. Zhou Butler wiped the sweat off his forehead and quickly explained. The fabrics used by these nobles to make clothes are all from the upper supply. Those servants are all snobbish and adaptable to the situation. In the past, when Prince Ning was prosperous, the best royal materials were chosen by him, but since the decline of Prince Ning's mansion, the materials sent here have also become worse and worse, said Zhou Guanjiao. Tang Xueyao stared at the clothes on housekeeper Zhou and said, I think the fabric of your clothes is pretty good. At first, there was some good news, but Prince Ning was paralyzed in bed and couldn't use the new clothes. The villain just took these fabrics with the people in the mansion to make clothes for himself. Zhou, the butler, chuckled. But it's really gone lately. The new clothes sent to you now are made from the newly supplied fabrics. Seeing Tang Xueyao's displeased expression on her face, the butler Zhou quickly made up for it and said, I also feel that this new coarse cloth outfit is not suitable for the prince to wear, so I brought this old prince's outfit. Although it looks a bit yellow, it was just washed last night and has dried in the sun, so it can still be used. Without waiting for housekeeper Zhou to finish speaking, Tang Xueyao threw the coarse cloth directly onto him and said, Housekeeper Zhou, you wouldn't think that just because you said that, I would easily believe you, would you? The materials you provided are poor, so you can buy new fabrics and use these two sets of clothes to fool me. Does housekeeper Zhou think that yesterday's lesson is not enough? Upon hearing this, the housekeeper Zhou's face changed dramatically and he said, The princess, calm down. What the villains say is true. As for this silver money, the valuable things in the palace have long been gone, and we can only rely on the salary given by the court every month. With so many people in the palace needing silver to support us, the money is not enough at all. Not to mention that every time the Empress Dowager comes, she spends money like water. Tang Xueao's mind flashed with the image of a noble consort. Yesterday, she hastily got married, and it was indeed a very grand scene. Does Lady Shu care about all these things in the mansion? Tang Xueao couldn't help but frown. This. Housekeeper Zhou kept wiping the sweat off his forehead, hesitating and hesitant to say more. Tang Xueao couldn't understand his expression at first. Although Ning Han has been deposed, Lady Shu is still here. If she really cares about Ning Han, it's not her turn to these servants to bully him. She didn't even care about her son's life or death, and the small matters of silver, money, and fabric in the royal mansion naturally made Lady Shu even less concerned. There is such a cruel mother in the world. Fortunately I was quite polite to her yesterday. I used to think that Lady Shu was eager to find a legitimate consort for Ning Han, but now I see that it's not the same thing at all. Perhaps even the maids in the mansion refused to approach Ning Han, so Consort Shu casually found someone from outside to escort Ning Han on her final journey, reducing the pressure on the royal family internally and achieving her own reputation externally. Zhou, the butler, saw Tang Xueao's uncertain expression and was afraid that she would vent her anger on him. He quickly said, "Princess, I have other matters to attend to. I'll leave for now." Tang Xueao ultimately didn't take the new coarse cloth clothes. She took the old clothes and sniffed them under her nose, confirming that they were clean and fragrant after washing. She then took the old clothes and walked into the room with a bowl. At the moment of opening the door, Tang Xueao took a deep breath and covered up all the negative emotions in her heart. She had only been in the Wang mansion for just 2 days and was already almost furious. It was hard to imagine how Ning Han managed to survive these 3 years. Tang Xueao can get angry with Zhou Butler and other villains, but she cannot blame Ning Han for her bad emotions. Therefore, in front of him, Tang Xueao always maintains a positive and energetic appearance. With a squeak sound, the door opened and Tang Xueao walked over to Ning Han with a smile. "Ning Han, let me help you change your medicine. After changing your medicine, you must eat obediently, otherwise I will punish you and kiss you." If Ning Han had heard such words before, he would have been furious every minute. But today it went against the norm, cooperating throughout the entire process. Ning Han's cooperation made Tang Xueao feel much better. She hummed a song and turned around to start packing her things. Tang Xueao, whose back was facing Ning Han, didn't know that although Ning Han had all 4 limbs, he was once a martial arts practitioner and had more intelligence in his ears and eyes than ordinary people. Just now Tang Xueao was talking to butler Zhou outside. Although she closed the door and lowered her voice, most people wouldn't hear anything, but Ning Han still caught some fragments of words. Royal use. Valuable things. Silver. Noble consort. Originally, what she wanted was this. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Pawn Wedding Clothes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Pawn Wedding Clothes. Ning Han lay in bed, watching Tang Xueao fold her clothes, pound medicine for him, and dispose of his dirt. Even though Ning Han knew that Tang Xueao approached him with a different purpose, he still couldn't hate Tang Xueao. At this moment, all the wounds on his body have been carefully treated by Tang Xueao and applied with ice-cold ointment. Clean sheets, clean clothes, everywhere is refreshing, with a fragrant smell of sun exposure. The congee in his stomach is soft and glutinous, which makes him feel satisfied. In all these years, Ning Han has felt for the first time what happiness is. If I just die like this, it's not bad. Ning Han thought to himself. After all, the heavens did not mistreat him. Before his death, Tang Xueao appeared beside him and gave him a dignified appearance. If what Tang Xueao wants is those things, why not give them to her? Thinking of this, Ning Han slowly said, "When I returned from the border victory, my father was overjoyed and rewarded me with many good things. Most of these things I gave to my mother, and only a few things with special significance were kept by me. Everything is placed in the dark compartment at the bottom of the bedside cabinet. When you open it, stick your hand in and gently press a depression, and the box will pop out. Tang Xueyao, who was storing things, turned her head in surprise and said, "What are you telling me about these things?" Ning Han said, "Just go and open it and you'll understand. Those are priceless treasures, not only beautiful and attractive, but also easy to exchange for silver." The reason why Ning Han kept it was originally to prepare for the next expedition. The border road is far away, and it is inevitable to have unexpected needs on the way. Carry some treasures with you, which can not only serve as tokens, but also be used in emergency situations during special times. At that time, he never thought that one day he would become a useless person, unable to even get out of bed, let alone lead troops to fight. Tang Xueyao squatted down skeptically to open the cabinet, reached in and pressed her hand. The next second, the sound of the mechanism rotating came from inside the cabinet, and a small box actually appeared in her hand. Upon opening it, there were countless priceless treasures in the box, most notably the crystal-clear snowflake-shaped jade pendant on the top layer. "What a beautiful jade pendant!" Tang Xueyao exclaimed in surprise. She has also seen countless expensive jewelry in modern times, but none of them can compare to the treasures in a box. After all, they are items used by ancient officials, and each one is a precious antique. If these things were placed in modern times, they could only be seen in museums. Ning Han saw that she liked it and whispered, "These are all yours now." "Really?" Tang Xueyao widened her eyes and looked at Ning Han. "Did you give it to me?" Ning Han nodded and turned his face away from her. Tang Xueyao gave Ning Han a strange glance, unable to understand why he suddenly took such a move. But the next second, a possibility suddenly flashed through Tang Xueyao's mind. Did Ning Han hear the conversation between her and housekeeper Zhou? "All the valuable things in the mansion have been emptied, not to mention the silver. I can't even afford the fabric for making clothes. Although there is fish and meat to eat these days, if this continues, the food will only get worse and worse." Tang Xueyao was worried about not having enough money in her hand, but she didn't expect Ning Han to immediately take out her hidden treasure. For 3 years, Ning Han has been bullied to the brink of death and has never given these things away. Now, he has simply handed them over to himself. He actually trusts her so much, it's not in vain for her to work hard to take care of her these days. The other party was so friendly, and Tang Xueyao didn't want to disappoint either. As soon as she closed the box, she said to Ning Han, "Okay, then I'll accept it for now." After finishing speaking, Tang Xueyao opened the cabinet door on the other side, put everything into the package one by one, and then said to Ning Han, "I have something to go out for. You're at home alone, so be good." Ning Han didn't expect Tang Xueyao to leave as soon as she received the treasure, so she couldn't help but turn her head to look at Tang Xueyao. "Why, you can't bear me," Tang Xueyao smiled as she carried the package. Ning Han wanted to shift his gaze away and deny it, but at the thought of never seeing her again, he couldn't bear to turn his head and looked at Tang Xueyao with such determination. After a long time, Ning Han hoarsely said, "Be careful on the way. Have a good journey." "Don't worry, I have the ability to protect myself," Tang Xueyao said, waving to Ning Han and pushing open the door before leaving. As soon as Tang Xueyao left, the whole room instantly became deserted. Although she had only been here for a few days, every corner of the room was covered with her traces. Ning Han lay alone in bed, rational enough to tell him that such a result had been expected by him, but his heart was still empty, cold and uncomfortable, and painful. Tang Xueyao carried the package and walked out, attracting many maids and servants to watch. During this period, many people wanted to step forward and stop her, but when they thought about the experience of Zhou Butler that day, many people stopped. In the front hall that day, housekeeper Zhou clearly prepared to teach Tang Xueyao a lesson. He closed the door and sent Congee in alone. Normally, Tang Xueyao, a controlled female, could not be the rival of housekeeper Zhou. However, when the door opened, Tang Xueyao walked out unscathed, and housekeeper Zhou was covered in swill, as if he had been possessed by evil. Since then, the housekeeper Zhou has been like a different person, having a dog's leg in front of Tang Xueyao. Being able to tame the cunning housekeeper Zhou obediently, everyone felt a bit wary of Tang Xueyao and only dared to hide in the dark and mutter. The queen took the package and walked outside the mansion. She wouldn't be running away, would she? Following Prince Ning will eventually lead to a dead end. If it were me, I would have run. The queen has run away, will we be okay? The sky is falling, and with Butler Zhou standing up, we just don't see it. Amidst the whispers of a group of people, Tang Xueyao walked unobstructed all the way out of the royal mansion. After stepping out of the palace gate, Tang Xueyao did not hesitate and headed straight to the market. At noon, the busiest moment of the market, Tang Xueyao shuttled through numerous crowds and finally stopped in front of a pawn shop. She didn't rush in, but instead found a cool corner to sit down and quietly observe every customer who entered the pawn shop. Before leaving, Tang Xueyao deliberately changed into plain clothes, but still couldn't conceal her stunning appearance. A good-looking person is always eye-catching, even if hiding in a corner, sometimes someone turns their head to look at her. Especially the shopkeeper of the pawn shop, since noticing Tang Xueyao sitting outside and observing them, couldn't help but occasionally look in her direction and see that she was ready to enter. But Tang Xueyao is not. She sat motionless in the same spot, sitting from morning until afternoon, watching the sunset set in the west. In no time, it was getting dark, and Tang Xueyao finally got up. The shopkeeper thought she was finally coming in and was ready to receive the guests, but saw Tang Xueyao turn around and seemed to be leaving. The shopkeeper suddenly couldn't sit still. "Miss, please stay behind, Mississippi." Tang Xueyao pretended to be surprised and turned around. "Are you calling me?" "What's up?" The pawn shop shopkeeper said. The pawn shop shopkeeper Congee, have you been sitting here all afternoon, but do you want to pawn something?" The shopkeeper's good eyesight, Tang Xueyao smiled. Congee smiled bitterly and said, "Miss, don't let me be defeated. In terms of my determination, I am not as good as you. To do this pawn business, it is important to focus on determination and exploration. After all, the same object can be mortgaged for completely different prices by different people doing pawn business." Tang Xueyao sat here all day, waiting for Congee to discover her and actively propose to do business with her. Once Congee had a request from her, Tang Xueyao took the initiative, and the subsequent negotiations became simple. Congee immediately saw Tang Xueyao's plan, so he let Tang Xueyao sit for a whole day, but he didn't take the initiative to greet her. But as Tang Xueyao stood up to leave, Congee couldn't sit still. For him, it doesn't matter whether Tang Xueyao is beautiful or not, what's important is her temperament, which is different from ordinary people who grew up in luxurious clothes and food. This kind of person, regardless of their plain attire, once they come to this pawn shop, they will definitely be able to produce good goods. Congee finally encountered such a customer and couldn't bear to let go. Even if he knew Tang Xueyao's plan, he could only grit his teeth. "I don't know what the girl wants to pawn," Congee asked curiously as he invited Tang Xueyao to the store. Tang Xueyao walked to the innermost part and confirmed that the people outside couldn't see them before opening the package, revealing a hint of red. "I want to pawn it." "Is this a red wedding dress?" Congee was taken aback. He has been doing business for so many years, and has seen many people pawning dowries, but it is the first time he has encountered someone pawning wedding clothes. Congee couldn't help but glance sympathetically at Tang Xueyao. Looking at those who are young and good-looking, they have been living a very unhappy life. They even pawned their red wedding clothes. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Unexpected Joy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Unexpected joy. Although I understand the significance of this wedding dress to a girl, I still want to remind you that the red wedding dress worn by this woman is not worth money, said Congee, feeling somewhat disappointed. After a whole day of tinkering, I was so happy to have just tinkered with something like this. Tang Xueao naturally saw what Congee was thinking. Without much nonsense, she reached out and untied the package, revealing the red wedding dress completely before Congee's eyes. A bright red color even brighter than the morning glow appeared before Congee's eyes. Under the exquisite and complex craftsmanship, the most eye-catching was the large golden pattern on the skirt hem. Congee's eyes suddenly widened and he said, This is. It's a golden thread, Tang Xueao said. Although the Prince Ning's mansion has declined internally, the noble consort, Guifei, wants face and performs exceptionally well on the surface. This bride's wedding dress was provided to Tang Xueao by concubine Guifei. It was handmade by top-notch embroidery women with every stitch and thread. Not only was the material excellent, but the cuffs and skirts were also extravagantly embroidered with large pieces of gold thread to create patterns such as dragons, phoenixes, and parallel lotus. Under the sunshine, the red wedding dress and the golden embroidered pattern exchanged radiance, almost captivating Congee's eyes. 200 taels, I'll give you 200 taels of this wedding dress, Congee exclaimed excitedly. The shopkeeper is joking, Tang Xueao smiled. 200 taels may not be enough to buy this gold thread. This is a pawn mortgage, and you can still take it back in the future. 200 taels is already very high. Congee Dao. The wedding dress can be taken back, but the embroidery technique is hard to say, Tang Xueao said. Congee didn't expect Tang Xueao to still think of this layer, and his face changed slightly. Miss, what does this mean? Tang Xueao was too lazy to play a riddle with him and said directly, this wedding dress, regardless of the material, needle and thread, is of the highest quality. The cost of gold thread goes without saying, and the most important thing is that the embroidery technique is a secret technique of the palace. I will mortgage this wedding dress here, and the shopkeeper can use it for great purposes at any time. Gold thread and embroidery techniques are priceless items, and a mere 200 taels are too annoying. When Congee saw the wedding dress, he did have such a plan. Unexpectedly, Tang Xueao saw through everything. At such a young age, Congee was somewhat displeased by his cunning and cunning plans. He snorted coldly, so, this wedding dress is for imperial use, and only the royal family could have it. It is impossible for royal relatives and relatives to come to my small pawn shop. What is your status and how did you get this wedding dress? Tang Xueao couldn't have said anything about Princess Ning. You don't have to worry about who I am or how I got it. You just need to make one decision. 500 taels, do you want it or not? Congee wanted to say a few more words to suppress the price, but when he met Tang Xueao's gaze, he eventually swallowed those words back. The little girl in front of me clearly came prepared. Looking at the delicate and weak little girl, she sat outside the pawn shop all day under the scorching sun. With this determination alone, Congee could not do it. It was basically impossible to persuade Tang Xueao to change her mind with just a few words. And 500 taels is also within his affordability range. Okay, Congee finally gritted his teeth and said, the longest pawning time is 1 year. If you can't come and redeem it with 500 taels in 1 year, this red wedding dress will be mine. 500 taels, not much for the wealthy, but for ordinary people, it is a huge sum of money. Although it's painful to pay today, if Tang Xueao can't come back in a year and buys this red wedding dress for 500 taels, upon careful consideration, it's still a good deal. When taking the money, Tang Xueao specifically asked Congee to give her some silver bills, some broken silver, and some copper coins, and then hid them in different positions on her body. When leaving the pawn shop, Tang Xueao clearly felt someone following her behind. She just pawned a precious red wedding dress and carried a huge sum of 500 taels on her body. It's normal for people in the pawn shop to have crooked thoughts. Tang Shuiao had anticipated this and would run to the busiest place as soon as she left the pawn shop. At this time, it was already evening, and the busiest place on the street was undoubtedly the Huaxiang restaurant. Tang Shuiao shuttled through the heavy crowd, not only easily getting rid of the people behind her, but also buying what she wanted to buy. Just as she was about to return home, suddenly, the crying on the side caught Tang Shuiao's attention. "No, I have to be with my sisters, I can't go with you. Your sister is almost dead. Being with them will only drag you down. Come home with me to eat delicious food and drink spicy food. I will treat you well." "No, no, no, I will not go alone unless I buy 4 of our sisters. Bitch, giving face is shameless. I don't believe I can't cure you today." Cries, screams, and the sound of sticks beating came together. Tang Shuiao walked forward and saw a man dressed as a nouveau riche, pulling on a young girl. Behind the young girl lay 3 people who were unaware of life or death. Their cheeks were swollen and they looked terrifying at first glance, unable to see their true colors. On the ground next to the 3 of them, there were 4 crooked characters written. Selling oneself to treat illness. Looking at the nouveau riche's forced buying and selling attitude towards the girl, Tang Shuiao suddenly understood something. With a gentle movement of her hand hidden in her sleeve, there were several herbs in her palm. As she passed by the 3 sick girls lying down, Tang Shuiao gently shook the herbs in her hand and poured all the powder onto them. After completing all of this, Tang Shuiao walked up to the crying girl and shouted to the explosive household, "Stop it." The nouveau riche turned his head, and when he realized that it was actually a beauty blocking him, his eyes lit up and he said, "Beauty, what's wrong with me? Do you also want to come with me? Didn't you see the 4 big characters selling oneself to treat illness written on the ground?" Tang Shuiao said. The nouveau riche sneered and said, "I've seen these 3 people around long ago. They are evil and cannot be cured. Instead of wasting time on them, it's better to follow me." "Who said it can't be cured, isn't it already awake?" Tang Shuiao said. The 2 of them were taken aback and turned their heads to look at the corner. They were then surprised to find that the 3 of them, who had just fallen into a coma, had woken up leisurely. Although their faces had not yet recovered, their consciousness had already regained clarity, and they looked much better than before. The crying girl exclaimed in surprise and turned around to pounce on the 3 of them. "You guys woke up. How do you feel? Are you feeling better?" The 3 of them had just recovered from their serious illness and had not yet understood what had happened. They looked around in a daze, and in the end, their eyes unconsciously focused on Tang Shuiao. Tang Shuiao gave them a slight smile and turned to prepare to leave. "These 3 people are not suffering from any major problems, it's just wind cold combined with rubella." However, in ancient times, medical resources were scarce, and without timely treatment, a small cold could take people's lives. Coupled with a rubella, it was even more dangerous. Tang Shuiao just took out the herb from the fairy grass space and helped them take the most dangerous step by sprinkling it on their bodies while others were not paying attention. The 3 of them woke up so quickly, indicating that their physical foundation was good, and it was only a matter of time before they fully recovered. "Benefactor, please wait." Just then, the crying girl rushed out and caught up with Tang Shuiao. Tang Shuiao turned to look at her and said, "Is there anything else?" Although the benefactor was not explicitly stated, the sisters all knew that it was the benefactor who saved them, the girl said. "You saved my sisters. According to the rules, we should sell ourselves to you, and from now on we will be your maidservants." Tang Shuiao said, "I did save people, but when I took action, I didn't think about these things. Since they have all woken up, you should hurry back and reunite with them, and live a good life in the future. Begging the benefactor to take us in." The girl immediately knelt in front of Tang Shuiao upon hearing this. "To be honest, that bastard just now had already set his sights on me. My sisters know some martial arts, and they were always protecting me until a few days ago when they suddenly fell ill inexplicably. No one knows if it was him who made the move. The world is vast, and we really have nowhere to go. Upon hearing this, Tang Xueyao was slightly moved and said, "Do you think you know some martial arts?" As soon as the girl heard the play, she nodded repeatedly and said, "Yes. We can do laundry, cooking, guarding the house, whether we are maids or guards. Although there are many servants in Prince Ning's mansion, none of them are obedient." Tang Xueyao had already prepared to buy some manpower on her own, but it was already late today. She had originally planned to come out and see it again next time, but by chance, there was still such a surprise. She immediately nodded and said, "All right, show me the deed of sale. After confirming your identity, I will consider whether to take it from you." The girl was overjoyed and immediately turned around to bring over the promissory note. And her 3 younger sisters were indeed in excellent physical condition. In just such a moment, not only did they wake up, but they could even stop the nouveau riche who had just caused trouble. Tang Xueyao was very satisfied with this. After confirming that everything was okay, she put away the 4 of them and said, "From now on, you 4 will follow me. But let me make it clear that after following me, you will be my own maid and can only obey my orders. No matter what I ask you to do, you must unconditionally agree. Can you do it?" The girl nodded repeatedly. "My name is Tang Xueyao, and as for my identity, you will soon know." Tang Xueyao said, "Do you have a name?" "Without a name, our parents left early and grew up relying on each other. Before, everyone called me Daya and called them Arya, Sanya, and Siya," said the girl. "Then you will be called Ah Mei in the future," Tang Xueyao said. The other 3 people, namely Ah Lan, Ah Zhu, and Ah Ju, together make Mei Lan, Zhu Ju, the 4 most beloved plants of literati and scholars since ancient times. Mei, Lan, Zhu, and Chrysanthemum. Ami murmured, getting happier as she read, "Thank you, Lord." The setting sun set completely in the west, accompanied by night, and Tang Xueyao returned with 4 maids stepping on the moonlight. When Tang Xueyao was discovered to be Princess Ning, a hint of shock flashed in the eyes of Mei, Lan, Zhu, and Ju. They didn't expect the new master to have such an identity. However, all 4 of them remembered Tang Xueyao's teachings, kept their surprise hidden in their hearts, closely followed Tang Xueyao's footsteps, centered around her, and dared not make any mistakes. The guards of the Wang mansion recognized Tang Xueyao. During the day, when Tang Xueyao went out with a package, they dared not stop her. Now that Tang Xueyao returned with someone, there was no reason to stop the door. Tang Xueyao walked inside with Mei, Lan, Zhu, and Ju, thinking about how to explain today's situation to Ning Han later. She didn't expect the shopkeeper of the pawn shop to be so patient, spending a whole day with her, let alone encountering plum blossoms, orchids, bamboo chrysanthemums on the way back, which caused a long delay. A whole day has passed in the blink of an eye, and I don't know if Ning Han has eaten yet. Tang Xueyao hurried towards Ning Han's yard, but as soon as she arrived at the door, she heard movement coming from inside. "Prince!" A woman's voice came from inside, speaking none other than Chunlan. Tang Xueyao raised her eyebrows slightly. What is Chunlan doing here in the middle of the night? End of this chapter. Chapter 10. 4 Helpers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 4 Helpers. When Tang Xueyao walked out of the palace carrying a bundle, all the servants of the palace received the news, including Chunlan. She hid in the corner, watching Tang Xueyao walk out with a thick bag of things, feeling both jealous and gloomy in her heart. Jealousy of Tang Xueyao marrying into the royal family empty-handed in just a few days, to the extent that she had only managed to make so much profit. It was dark and refreshing that Tang Xueyao couldn't sit still and wanted to run away when she found something good. Is the door of this royal mansion where she can enter and exit as soon as she thinks. Don't be fooled by Tang Xueyao's ease of going out now. Once it is confirmed that the queen has fled, the Empress Dowager will be furious, and even from the ends of the earth, she will try to catch Tang Xueyao back. At that time, not only Tang Xueyao will become a prisoner, but also her family will have to go to jail. The more she thought about Chunlan, the happier she felt in her heart. After wandering around the palace all day, she didn't see Tang Shuiao come back even after dark. Chunlan's heart was filled with other thoughts. Tang Shuiao has just arrived at the Wang mansion and is not very familiar with the situation inside. However, she left with such a big bag of things, so it must not be her fault. The only thing that can provide benefits to Tang Shuiao is Ning Han. I didn't expect Ning Han to lie down for 3 years and still hide something good. Not only did Chunlan think of this, but all the servants in the mansion realized it. They all walked around Ning Han's yard intentionally or unintentionally, wanting to go in and find him, but also worried that Tang Shuiao would come back. If she found out, they might not be able to eat and walk away. A group of people hesitated, and Chunlan became the first person to push the door in. She not only directly entered Ning Han's bedroom, but also brought a special, little gift to Ning Han. She is indeed a small household, a woman accustomed to doing rough work. Look at the prince, his whole body has been cleaned up and his wounds have been cleaned and bandaged by Tang Shuiao. Chunlan walked up to Ning Han, ignoring his angry gaze, lifted Ning Han's blanket, and then picked up the little gift in her own hand. It is a very common bamboo chopstick, but due to prolonged use, the chopstick is a bit deformed and has many rough burrs on the edges. Everyone in the mansion witnessed with their own eyes that Tang Shuiao had stolen something from the royal mansion and fled today, carrying a bundle. Chunlan said to Ning Han, "I have been serving the prince for 3 years, but I don't know that the prince is still hiding such a good thing privately. To be honest, what have you done to Tang Shuiao? She didn't steal anything, nor did she escape the palace. She just went out for a while and will come back sooner or later," Ning Han said coldly. "Do you think I will believe it?" Chunlan sneered. "Tang Shuiao, as the queen, fled without permission, and the death penalty is inevitable. She has left you alone, why do you keep your mouth shut for her and hand over the treasure, otherwise don't blame me for being impolite." Chunlan waited for a few seconds, but didn't receive Ning Han's answer. "Not to mention it, that's okay. The medicine on the prince's body has been applied all day, and I will now serve him to change the medicine," said Chuntao, raising her chopstick tip and aiming it at Ning Han's wound to poke it inside. Under severe torture, she didn't believe that Ning Han wouldn't honestly confess. At this moment, with a loud bang, the door was forcefully pushed open. The lights and moonlight shone in together, and Ning Han and Chunlan unconsciously turned their heads. When they saw Tang Shuiao standing outside with a cold and solemn face, they were both surprised. "How did you come back?" "Wang. Princess." Tang Shuiao stared at Chunlan and said, "Who am I supposed to be inside? It turns out it's Chunlan. Why do you come to the prince's place in the middle of the night without resting?" Chunlan quickly hid the chopsticks in her hand and gave a dry smile, saying, I saw that the queen had been away for a long time and was worried about the prince's health, so I came to see him." Tang Shuiao sneered, "I didn't expect you to care so much about the prince. That's natural. I'm at least an old man in the royal mansion. I've been serving the noble concubine and the prince for many years, and I'm definitely different from those new people." Chunlan said calmly and quickly got up and walked out, wanting to leave quickly. Since the queen has returned, Chunlan doesn't need to stay anymore. "I'll leave first." "Wait a minute. What are you holding in your hand?" Tang Shuiao grabbed Chunlan's hand and forced her to reveal the chopsticks hidden in her sleeve. "You're such a dirty maid. How dare you even hold your hand when you come in? Is this the rule that the Empress Dowager taught you?" Chunlan didn't expect that Tang Shuiao not only discovered what was hidden in her hand, but also accused her of stealing things. Chunlan immediately retorted, "I didn't steal anything, I brought it in myself." "Did you bring it in yourself? Taking care of the prince even dares to hide sharp weapons. What's your intention? Are you a spy sent by an enemy country who wants to assassinate the prince?" Tang Xueyao immediately scolded. Chunlan was stunned, never expecting Tang Xueyao to charge her with being an enemy assassin. Either admit to being a thief and stealing the prince's chopsticks, either admit to being an imperial spy and want to assassinate the prince. No matter which one Chunlan chooses, the blame falls on her head, no matter how hard she tries to escape. After realizing this, Chunlan felt a chill in her heart. She immediately screamed, "Tang Xueyao, you slandered me without hesitation. I won't easily fall for it." As she spoke, Chunlan clenched her other hand into a fist shape and fiercely smashed it towards Tang Xueyao's face. A few days ago, under Tang Xueyao's design, Chunlan was slapped a few times by Butler Zhou, and her face has not improved yet. Whenever she sees Tang Xueyao's beautiful face, Chunlan feels angry and resentful in her heart. This is a good time for her to seek revenge. First punch Tang Xueyao down, then run out, throw away the chopsticks, and find a place to hide. The Wang mansion is so big that she has a heart to hide. It's not a problem to hide until dawn. When Tang Xueyao asked her again at dawn, Chunlan didn't know and bit herself to death. She slept to death last night. What kind of theft, assassination, and beating of the queen? It's not entirely her fault. If Tang Xueyao dares to investigate further, she will bring this matter to the attention of Empress Dowager Guifei. At that time, Empress Dowager Guifei's focus will only be on Tang Xueyao sneaking out of the palace, and she will definitely not be punished again. Chunlan planned well in her heart, vigorously waving her fists and smashing them at Tang Xueyao's face. At this moment, she not only had no fear in her heart, but even a surge of pleasure surged. She wants to tilt Tang Xueyao's face and let her taste the pain of her damaged appearance in the past few days. At this critical moment, an extra hand suddenly appeared beside her, tightly grasping Chunlan's fist. Immediately afterwards, a strong force came from behind and directly threw Chunlan to the ground. Chunlan looked up and saw 4 maidservants appearing in the room at some point. 3 of them still had swollen faces and couldn't see their appearance clearly. It was even more terrifying than ghosts at night. "Ah!" Chunlan was startled and exclaimed, "Who are you? Who dares to sneak into the royal palace and not be afraid of being beaten to death by a stick?" Pop! Before Chunlan could finish speaking, Ame had already squatted down and directly slapped Chunlan. "Oh my God, you lowly people dare to hit me!" Chunlan covered her face and cursed loudly. The position of Zhou Butler is above Chunlan, and she has won the trust of the Empress Dowager. She dare not curse Zhou Butler, but what are these 4 people in front of her? Why hit her? Just a servant girl dared to fight with the princess. Since the servant girls in the palace are so unruly, let us 4 sisters teach you. Ah Mui snorted coldly. Tang Xueyao is the benefactor of their 4 sisters. Even if she is not a princess, they don't allow anyone to dare to be so presumptuous. What's more, Tang Xueyao's identity is a noble princess. Chunlan, as a servant girl, is a bit too rampant. Ame said to Tang Xueyao, "Princess, let's take her down now to avoid dirtying your and the prince's eyes." Tang Xueyao did not expect Mei, Lan, Zhu and Ju to be so awesome at the critical moment. She nodded with satisfaction and said, "Go ahead." Seeing that the chopsticks still fell to the ground, Tang Xueyao bent down and picked them up, handing them to Mei. "Take this with you." "How does she take care of the prince?" "You just need to take care of her as well." "Yes." Aim bent down and took it with both hands. Chunlan's face changed greatly as she looked at the chopsticks. She planned to poke the chopstick into Ning Han's wound, stir it well, prick her muscles and bones, forcing Ning Han to reveal the secret. As the executor, Chunlan enjoys seeing Ning Han's painful appearance. But now that this thing is going to penetrate her body, Chunlan can't bear it anymore. She turned pale and shouted, "Tang Xueyao, I am from the Empress Dowager. You cannot treat me like this, otherwise the Empress Dowager will definitely not let you go." Before Chunlan finished speaking, she was stopped by Aim. The world has finally become quiet. Tang Shuiao closed the door again and walked up to Ning Han. Although Tang Shuiao returned in time, Chunlan's chopsticks did not have time to pierce Ning Han's wound. But in the process of struggling ahead, several wounds still slightly cracked, and a few strands of blood seeped out, staining the gauze red, especially glaring. Tang Shuiao remained calm and cursed Chunlan in her heart, then quickly washed her hands and bandaged Ning Han's wound again. Seeing Ning Han staring blankly at herself, Tang Shuiao reached out and waved her hand in front of Ning Han. Are you okay? Aren't you scared silly by Chunlan? Ning Han looked at Tang Shuiao and murmured, why did you come back? Why did you come back? End of this chapter.